And I want you to be able to support your leaders in being able to communicate to the entire organization. And it's simply this: you are safe and you are free. You're safe and you're free. If I can balance these two, we get to transform and evolve and pace with this changing nature of work around us. Now, when we say you're safe, hierarchy gives us baseline. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, baseline safety. Structure, predictability, order. I've been told what I'm responsible for. I know what I'm accountable for. That's baseline. What we're going after is higher order level of safety. What we really want is to reach levels of psychological safety. How many of you are deploying, thinking about inside your organization, your culture, psychological safety? Raise your hands. Where am I at on psychological safety? Okay, I got a handful of you. Perfect. For those of you that aren't, this is an unbelievable opportunity. Now, when we say psychological safety, essentially what are we talking about? What does that mean, psychological safety? And there's no right or wrong answers here, but just shout out, like, what do you think from either your research or in your firm, how you've defined it, your organization? Psychological safety. What's that?
It's okay to make mistakes.
Great answer. It's okay to make mistakes. Beautiful. What else? Anybody over on this side? It's okay to make mistakes. Yeah. Being empowered to make decisions. Perfect. So to sort of summarize, psychological safety is essentially your ability to bring your full self, your most authentic self, to work every single day, to be able to question, to challenge, to bring new ideas to the table without fear of retribution, without fear of public flogging, right? Without fear of ridicule, to be able to learn and grow and expand, to bring my full self. Psychological safety. And it's not just a nice thing. The research behind this is incredible. Amy, for those of you who are interested and you want to go deeper on this, Amy Edmondson has been studying this for a long time. She started putting out great research on this front back in the early 90s. Her research fueled one of the greatest studies of high-performance teams ever done by Google. And many of you are familiar with this. That study came out about 5 years ago. How many of you remember that study? Google looked at their 100,000 employees and they said, we want to understand what was the formula for high performance across all our teams. And they found there were 5 key drivers. And of those 5 drivers, the single most important was psychological safety. When that exists, high performance is attainable. Teams can do anything. So I want that level of safety here, but on the flip side of it, I do not want to downplay, and I think we have an incredible opportunity as L&D leaders around the idea of freedom. And I'll explain what I mean here. Freedom, one of our deepest held desires, freedom. Freedom for what? Well, think about it for yourself and just give me shout out some examples. What do you want the freedom, you personally? Not your organization, not your people, not the teams you support. You personally, what do you want the freedom to do, be, and have more of in your life professionally? And there's obviously no right or wrong answers here. What are we going to say? The freedom to try and fail. And in the space of creating educational learning opportunities with all of the advancements of new technology and artificial intelligence and VR. I mean, I'm just looking at all of these great examples out here. It takes some experimentation, right? You're going to be able to nail those right out of the gate every single time. How many of you are inspired? Raise your hands if you were inspired by these examples on the back walls here. Perfect. For those of you who aren't, raise your hands. Let's get some coffee in these people. Get inspired about it. It could spark an idea in you, like the comic book example. You know, it's like, did that take some guts for someone to pitch? We're going to do a comic book? Maybe some of you are like, no, that would have flown in ours, but for others, you would have been like, I would have gotten laughed out of the room, hypothetically. Experiment. So the freedom to experiment and try new things. What else do you want the freedom to do, be, and have professionally? Give me some more examples. What shows up? Yeah, what do you think? A greater impact on the audience that you serve. Perfect. Love that. Anything else? Freedom to do, be, and have more of. What are you thinking? Challenge status quo. I love it. I'm gonna give you a little perspective as to what I've been noticing. I've been asking this question and really diving into the research deep over the last 6 months. Here's what I've been experiencing when I ask this question in rooms like this, large and small. There has consistently been this long, dramatic pause after I ask the question. And I don't think it's this long pause because people are hungover, they're tired, it's day 4, they just don't feel like participating, right? Because sometimes that's the case. It's like, it is day 5 in Vegas, not here, but in some situations, and people are just like, I don't feel like participating, man. But there's this long pause, and why? Why is this happening? And I think it's happening, and the reason I think this is because it was true for myself first, is that I hadn't even allowed myself to ask the question in the first place. I got an amen hand in the back of the room on that one. I haven't even allowed myself to ask the question in the first place. Right? For all of the acknowledgement and respect I will pay to the model on the left that is hierarchy. In many cases, what it has done to us, what society has done to us, it has created this little box that we get really good at playing in and within. This is my role, this is my responsibility, and we stop pushing against the edges. I don't even try to experiment anymore. I don't even ask for what I think I can get, not for what I really want. How long have you been doing that in your life? I ask for what I think I can get, not for what I really want. And my heart and my soul is bursting for more freedom and more expansion and more expression. Because that's my very nature. One of the greatest questions you can ask your people, go back in your teams, ask them, what do you want the freedom to do, be, and have more of? And then just listen. Back to the basics, back to the basics, back to the basics. The question is where do you go in your life to get back to the basics? Where do you go to get back to the basics? I know where I go from myself. Getting back to the basics for me is a one-way road back to one person. It's my grandmother. My grandmother was the queen of the basics. I'll tell you what I mean by this. She was one of those people who showed people she loved them through food. How many of you know someone in your life, your family, they show people through food? You come around and they got to make stuff for you, they got to cook for you, right? Their love language is acts of service. Yep, that was her. If you step into my grandmother's house, you were met with the aroma of affection. You know what I mean, right? And she lived in I grew up on a 4th generation farm in Minnesota. And remarkable men in my life, but remarkable women as well. And you walk into her house, she lived in a little farmhouse, and you'd come in the front door and you were immediately in the front porch. Old farmhouses, it's like, because you got to be able to drop your work boots and your work gear. There was a wash bin, wash your hands, and all that was there. But then your very next step was into the kitchen, which meant when you opened the door, it hit you quick. And I got to experience this a lot growing up because I lived right next door on the same property. Same farm. And let me tell you something, food mattered a lot to us. We didn't have a lot of money. For those of you that support, more of the rural communities or have any background in agriculture, farming in the 80s when I was coming of age was a difficult business. There were a lot of people who lost their farms. We almost lost a farm multiple times. Saw friends and family around us lose farms. Which meant there wasn't a lot of extra for like big fancy gifts and vacation. We didn't travel. I never flew on a plane till I was almost 20 years old. But there was always enough money to make something special to eat. And there was this realization as I got older of like, why did everything taste better in Grandma's kitchen? And what I realized is because it was almost like you could taste the love. She loved people, but she also loved the act of cooking and baking so much. And that combination meant you could taste the love. And so
as I started my firm, Future Sight Labs, one of the things that we started to look at was this idea of, well, if you can taste love, can you see love? Can you feel love? Like, meaning, when you walk into, I started paying attention, when I walk into a restaurant, or you walk into a hotel space or a lobby, you walk into a room, can you walk into a new home that's just been built? Raise your hands if you ever walked into a home and you're like, you could tell the designer, the builder, loved this house. Feels different, right? You can feel it in the house. I see your heads nodding. We've all been there. And so I started to think, the most beautiful restaurants, the most beautiful physical environments, the music that left me speechless, the art that left me breathless, the leaders that when you're in their presence, they just captivate. And my grandmother's kitchen, every single one of them had the same thing in common. What made them so special is that they were all made with love. They're all made with love. In a world where technology is eating away at our points of differentiation, your limitlessness can be found in your love. You can't compete with someone who's in their love. First is that the future of work isn't happening to us. The future of work is being created through us. Again, this idea of, it's not coming from my team of 10. We're not designing the future of work, you are. And even if in your small corner of the universe you say, yeah, but I oversee our payroll function. I'm not getting to decide our overall real estate strategies in every technology. My prompt to you is whatever corner of the universe you get to control, to design it, to make it as vibrant and powerful and purposeful as you possibly can. Leave your fingerprints on it. It's not happening to you, it's happening through us. Number two, change is not something to get through, change is our reality. I don't know if maybe you're like me, but sometimes I get caught in this trap of like, I just got to get through this thing. I got to get through this day. I got to get through this week. I got to get through this month. I need to get through the next 6 months. I need to get through what all of this crazy, chaotic changes, and we'll get to the other side, and the dust will sort of settle. You start to find yourself in this state of like, I'm trying to get through my life. And I look back and it's like, I just tried to power through the last week. I wasn't actually ever present to any of it. How many of you can relate? How many of you ever find yourselves in a situation where I'm just trying to get through it? You've even said that out loud. Right, we look back and it's like, what did I do? Was the victory to get through my life? To get through my work experience? No, I want you to claim it every step of the way. Change isn't something to get through, it is our new reality. And so a part of that means our tolerance for ambiguity, our tolerance for uncertainty, all the buzzwords that we hear all the time, but it really does become this ability of like, does it make me anxious? Does it make me fearful? Do I find myself resisting what is? Because I understand, I oscillate between we're gonna blow ourselves up, like that level of, right? I can be a little emotional. We are in big trouble. And then I'll oscillate back over to, this is an unbelievably amazing moment in time to be alive. This is as big as electricity. This is as big as the internet. This may be bigger than mobile devices. Like, we are living on the precipice of society being changed forever. Now, I do not want to move through life being afraid that AI is going to replace me in all of jobs. It doesn't serve me. And I don't believe that. I don't believe that all of you in this room are going to be replaced by AI. However, I think it's very likely that we will compete with and can be replaced by another human being who uses AI. Does that make sense? I'll say that again. I'm not worried about AI replacing me. Why? Because I'm thinking about what are the most human aspects of the work that I do that technology could never replace. I am constantly looking for where can I use these tools to remove friction, improve process, to take low value tasks off my plate, and then I skill up and I elevate, and I'm in this place that only human beings can do, where I can serve, support, add value into the equation. I refuse to go quietly into the good night. I'm not afraid.